Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Dina Calmety here, and for today's news, I do have quite a few headlines I'd like to share with you. But I first want to talk about this breaking news report in regards to the United States and Venezuela. Apparently, they're in some sort of a standoff, as Venezuela has mobilized over 4 million troops in response to the United States naval movement in the region. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro on Monday said that he would deploy 4.5 million militia members in response to U.S. threats, after Washington raised the bounty for his arrest. Maduro announced on state TV, "This week I will activate a special plan with more than 4.5 million militiamen to ensure coverage of the entire national territory. Militias that are prepared, activated, and armed." 12 days after offering a multi-million-dollar reward for information leading to the capture of the Venezuelan dictator, the U.S. is upping the pressure considerably. It arose that 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers armed with Aegis-guided missiles are headed to the coast of Venezuela as part of an effort to address threats from the Latin cartels. This comes as President Trump has vowed to use military force to disrupt the Latin American cartels. It goes on further to report, according to Reuters, that the sources said that the ships are the USS Gravely, USS Jason Durham, and the USS Sampson. A separate U.S. official told Reuters that in total about 4,000 sailors and Marines are expected to be committed to the Trump administration's efforts in the southern Caribbean region. The U.S. official, who was speaking on the condition of anonymity, said the additional commitment of military assets in the broader region would include several P-8 spy planes, warships, and at least 1 attack submarine. The operation will last several months, patrolling international airspace and international waters. Besides carrying out intelligence and surveillance operations, the ships may act as a launching pad for targeted strikes. So it definitely seems like a showdown is about to happen between the United States and Venezuela. So I guess we're going to have to wait to see what happens. All Israel News is reporting the Jordanian kingdom announced on Monday that it plans to reintroduce the military draft for young men. The first draft will comprise of 6,000 men at the age of 18 and will undergo basic military training for the duration of 3 months. The number of conscripts will rise to 10,000 over the next rounds. Draft dodgers will face penalties of at least 3 and up to 12 months of imprisonment, after which they must resume service. The reintroduction was announced by the Crown Prince during a meeting with youth from the city of Irbid, where he emphasized the importance of military service in strengthening national identity and deepening young people's connection to their country. The military draft had been abolished in 1992, ahead of the peace agreement with Israel 2 years later, and its reintroduction has since been repeatedly rejected, raising questions about the timing of the move. A report by Con News indicated that there could be some connection to the recent deterioration of relations with its neighbor to the west, Israel. Israel, meantime, recently announced plans to significantly increase IDF presence along the Jordanian border, which is the country's longest border, where Israel faces regular attacks and numerous smuggling attempts. In the meantime, Stars and Stripes is reporting that in northern Michigan, thousands of troops are training for combat across the Pacific. For the first time in its decade-plus history, this year's Northern Strike, which wrapped up on Saturday, shifted from its traditional European scenario to a simulated Indo-Pacific backdrop, reflecting the Pentagon's growing focus on conflict in that region. Adding to the significance was the inclusion of hundreds of troops from Taiwan, a U.S. partner that China claims as its own, and that American defense officials view as the most likely flashpoint for a potential war in Asia. In a briefing attended by Stars and Stripes on August 4th, a senior Michigan National Guard official said that more than 500 of Taiwan's troops participated in the Northern Strike this year. A briefing slide indicated that Taiwan has been quietly sending its forces to the exercise since at least 2021. U.S. President Trump has received a formal invitation to visit Moscow, according to the Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lavrov. During last week's summit in Alaska, the Russian president extended the invitation to Trump in person. Lavrov stated that Trump has an invitation and recalled that during the summit, the U.S. president had indicated the idea of him visiting Russia as interesting. During their joint press conference with Putin last week, Trump admitted, however, that he could get a little bit heat for traveling to Moscow. Nevertheless, he said he can see it possibly happening. On Monday, as I reported, Trump met with Ukraine's Zelensky and several European leaders and the heads of NATO and the European Commission to discuss the conditions for a peace deal with Russia. Following the meeting, Trump announced that he had once again spoken by phone with Putin and said he would work to arrange a meeting between the Russian president and Zelensky, followed by a trilateral summit. Now, with that said, over in France, following reports that the foreign minister Gideon is pushing for Israel to close France's consulate in Jerusalem in response to the French president's plan to recognize a Palestinian state, the French foreign ministry spokesperson says in a statement that Paris hasn't received any official notice of such a move, but warned against it. An Israeli diplomat told the Times of Israel that they are considering shuttering France's consulate general in Jerusalem after Macron announced that Paris will unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state in September. Earlier, visas were revoked from Australian representatives to the Palestinian Authority in response to Australia's decision to also recognize a Palestinian state. France's Jerusalem consulate, along with those of the UK, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Belgium, Spain, and Sweden, predates the founding of Israel and operates without official accreditation to the state. These 8 missions serve as the country's channels to the Palestinian Authority and handle a range of issues within Jerusalem. Now, with that said, the Times of Israel is reporting that some 60,000 Israeli reservists are set to receive call-up orders that the IDF will issue for the planned offensive in Gaza City, provided that the defense minister approves a move. The orders are not immediate, and the reservists will be given at least 2 weeks before needing to report for duty. The number of reservists being called up is in addition to tens of thousands of reservists who are currently serving in the reserves. Now, in the meantime, what is happening with North Korea? It's being reported that the General Staff Department of the Korean People's Army ordered the entire military early this month to make plans to build AI-based manned and unmanned combat systems, according to the daily NK source in the North Korean military. So in other words, AI nukes. The order appears to be a move to prepare for the building of the new combat systems that integrate AI technology as part of the next 5-year strategy ahead of the 9th Party Congress set for next year. According to the source, the GSD instructed the headquarters of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Army Special Operation Forces, and Strategic Force to draw up detailed plans in line with their units, combat missions, organizations, and realities to modernize their forces focused on remote control of manned and unmanned multi-purpose combat systems using AI technology. So here we are, AI nuclear weapons. So what we are witnessing with these nations, we read about in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which is wars and rumors of wars. Jesus said that in the last days we would see wars and rumors of wars, nation rising up against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And right now, we're definitely in the thick of it. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, but I guess it's a waiting game. However, I would like to move on to President Trump and a comment he made on Fox and Friends yesterday morning. Dialing into Fox and Friends, the 79-year-old president explained that his motivation for brokering an end to the war in Ukraine was not merely political or diplomatic. He said that he wants to try to get to heaven, if possible. He said, "I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons." At 79, with a long life behind him, it is entirely natural for President Trump to think about his eternal destiny. Brash, confident, and unapologetic, this is a remarkable admission. He underscores that even those who live in the constant glare of political and media scrutiny, they're not immune to the profound questions that life and the reality of death forces upon us. So somebody really needs to reach out to President Trump and share the gospel with him so that he can get saved. You know, there's a lot of different opinions about our president. Some people like him, some people don't. But as far as the Christians go, for those that are born again, children of God, washed in the blood of the Lamb, you guys, this is our goal. This is our mission, to share the gospel with as many people as possible, no matter whether you like them or care for their politics or not. Because even God doesn't want not one person to perish. So hopefully one day President Trump will get saved and his name will be written in the Lamb's Book of Life and he'll get to spend eternity with Jesus. But I digress. Let's move on. Let's talk about what else is happening in the news. In fact, what is going on with our furry friends? I have a report here from Michael Schneider of The Most Important News, and he is reporting nature is in chaos. A massive invasion of rats in California, hordes of diseased mosquitoes in Las Vegas, and zombie squirrels with ghastly growths that burst open. Michael asked a question: why does everything seem to be going haywire in 2025? In particular, the natural world has been thrown into a state of complete and utter chaos. We are experiencing the year of the fire and the year of the flood simultaneously, and we are constantly being hammered by large earthquakes and major volcanic eruptions. He goes on to say, I have written much about the natural disasters we have been witnessing, but today I'm going to focus on some of the more bizarre ways that nature is in chaos right now. For example, a massive invasion of rats is suddenly plaguing California's almond industry. Rodent expert Roger Baldwin used to get less than one yearly inquiry about rat issues during most of his extended stint at the University of California, where he's a professor. Now his phone keeps on buzzing with dozens of requests from farmers, journalists, and others seeking his expertise amid an unprecedented phenomenon: a massive assault by rats on the state's $4.7 billion almond industry. Nobody seems to know why a vast number of rats have shown up in this region, but they are causing a lot of damage. We are being told that so far these rats have caused 109 million to 311 million in losses from damage to equipment. So perhaps you really don't care what is happening to the almond industry in California, but you should, because California accounts for 75% of all global almond production. Now, over in neighboring Nevada, vast hordes of mosquitoes are causing havoc in Las Vegas. At one time, mosquitoes couldn't survive in desert climates. This city is a case study in how wrong that is. Mosquitoes typically prefer more tropical, humid conditions, but these biting machines have exploded in number throughout the Las Vegas Valley in recent years because of a host of changes. And it doesn't make sense that for Las Vegas to be having such a severe problem with mosquitoes, but it's happening anyway. And it turns out that an increasing number of these mosquitoes are carrying the West Nile. In recent weeks, 169 of over 24,000 pools of mosquitoes tested for the West Nile, and they returned positive, meaning at least one insect in the pool carried this. The number of mosquitoes recorded in the tally of positive pools this early in the season break the area's records for both metrics set in 2019. These are huge numbers of mosquitoes, and we've already identified the concerning number of them carrying the West Nile. For those of you that don't know, this particular virus can effectively erase someone from existence. Now, he goes on to report, last week I wrote about the diseased rabbits with tentacles like growths on their faces that are causing such a stir in Colorado. But now I'm going to tell you about a plague of diseased zombie squirrels that is frightening homeowners in both the US and Canada. A plague of terrifying zombie squirrels has gripped the backyards across America. Squirrels may look cute with their big bushy tails on a good day, but these ones have been seen covered with ghastly pus-filled tumors. These grotesque sores make the animals look like something out of a zombie apocalypse. He goes on to say what is happening to these precious little squirrels is a tremendous tragedy. According to authorities, the pus-filled growths are likely being caused by a disease known as Leporopox virus. It spreads through direct contact between healthy squirrels, and the lesions or saliva on that are infected. The condition leads to the wart-like growth spotted on the infected squirrels, which can burst open and ooze fluid. He goes on to ask the question, have you noticed that all sorts of very strange diseases seem to be on the rise here in 2025? Why is that? Meanwhile, the year of the flood continues to claim even more victims. Recent floods in Pakistan that caused tsunami-like devastation in some areas took the lives of over 200 people. One official said that the sudden apocalyptic floods were like a doomsday scenario. He goes on to say that in all modern history, we have never seen flooding like we have seen this year. But a lot of people out there are still convinced that conditions will eventually return to normal. We are also seeing an extremely unusual level of seismic activity in 2025. A volcano in Indonesia ejected hot volcanic ash nearly 10 kilometers into the air. If one of the major volcanoes in Oregon or Washington did that, everyone would be freaking out. But because it occurred on the other side of the planet, it isn't getting much attention at all. Elsewhere, Queensland was hit by the strongest earthquake that it has experienced in 50 years, with a 5.6. He goes on to finally say, I warned that global chaos was coming. But at first, a lot of people out there didn't want to believe it. Needless to say, there are a lot of less skeptics these days. But this is just the beginning. We are living in apocalyptic times, and sticking our heads in the sand isn't going to change that. So let's go further and talk about nature's chaotic behavior in the last week or so, because I haven't reported on this as of recently. A study estimates that 440 excess deaths occurred in LA County from the January 2025 wildfires. We had a 6.2 earthquake that hit the Santa Cruz Islands and the Solomon Islands. Check this out. We had more than 85 aftershocks from a 4.0 earthquake northwest of the geysers in California. Signs in the heavens. We had asteroid 2025 PU1 that flew past Earth on August 13th. A massive cloud burst struck India on August 14th, with 60 people perishing, injuring more than 300, leaving over 250 others missing. Wildfires in Zamora has become the largest in Spain's recorded history, with 3 perishing. And another meteorite identified northeast of Marlborough, Victoria, after the August 10th fireball. A 5.8 earthquake in Indonesia took 1 life, injured 41, with a church collapsing and a minor tsunami reported. That occurred on Monday, August 18th. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, just on Tuesday, August 19th, flooding triggered by intense rainfall took 1 life. Dangerous rip currents expected along the U.S. East Coast as Hurricane Erin is growing in size. Extreme rainfall paralyzes Mumbai, India, taking 3 lives and 2 missing. Another bright fireball was observed over southern Japan on August 19th, with an impact energy of 1.6 kilotons. Sydney has recorded its highest 6-year rainfall total since 1858. And signs in the sun. Prominence eruption produces a large CME off southeast limb. So what do all of these headlines tell us? Well, if we go back to Matthew chapter 24, verses 6 through 8, we're told that we will see famines, earthquakes in diverse places, and pestilence, or plague. Now, if we go to the books of Joel and Acts, God says that he'll show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. That could pertain to wildfires or volcanoes. So if we go back to Matthew 24, 37, and 39, Jesus references the days of Noah. So what were the days of Noah like? Well, it was a lot of sin, a lot of crime, a lot of immorality, and of course, the flood. He says in verse 37, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. What about signs in the sun or in the heavens? Jesus told us in Luke 21 that we would see signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. And upon the earth, the distress of nations with perplexity, as we're seeing, the sea and the waves roaring. That could refer to a hurricane. Absolutely nothing we have seen this year has been normal. From the fires to the floods to the earthquakes to the animals. And I could go on and on. We are living in unprecedented times, even biblical times, right before Jesus' return. Exciting times, you guys. And as always, I will continue to keep you updated. But please do leave your comments below this video. I want to hear from you. And also, when you have some time, come and visit me on our social media pages, as well as my website at www.cww7news.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, God bless and stay safe.